2NURFM.com, a broadcast service of the University of Newcastle.
Joining me from the University of Newcastle is Acting Director of Advancement, Rosemary O'Neill-Thompson. And yes, we are counting down to the 2013 Alumni Awards. We've been looking at some of the categories and the previous recipients, Rose, and so pleased to have you back with one of those this morning.
Yes, thank you, Dave. Look, the university is a leader in Indigenous education, and with the wonderful support of our Wallatuka Institute, we have a record of producing more Indigenous graduates than anywhere else in the country. And indeed, our medical graduates are higher than any other university in the country. So in recognition of this, the alumni decided to introduce 4 years ago the Indigenous Alumni Award. So your listeners who are thinking about nominating can have a listen to this conversation, and people might cross the screen of their thinking and they can put in an award.
Well, let's reflect on some of those who were nominated in last year's Indigenous Alumni Award. Can you go through some of those for us?
Yes, indeed. The three finalists for last year were Joel Wenatong, the musician. Now, Joel is a respected leader and mentor in Aboriginal communities across Australia. He's worked across the nation with his Indigenous hip-hop band, Local Knowledge. And look, he's an interesting campaigner because not only that, he's gone back to university right now and is studying medicine. So great future for him.
Encouraging, yeah.
Yes, there's also a young solicitor from the New South Wales Crown Solicitor's Office, Lauren Collier, who was doing tremendous work with legal representation for Indigenous peoples, in particular the Binilbala Indigenous Family Violence Legal Service. And then thirdly, the other finalist, who was indeed the 2012 recipient of the Indigenous Alumni Award, Dr. Dona Odegaard. Now, what a tremendous lady this one is. She's Chief Executive at Radio Larrakia Darwin, but far more than that, she has influenced the development of Indigenous media across Australia, but her focused efforts, of course, are in the Northern Territory.
And we have her on the phone. Congratulations on last year's win, Donna. Donna, tell us a little bit about your involvement with the University of Newcastle and your studies, please.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning, Rosemary. Good to hear your voice as well. Dave, my involvement, I think this is probably the most critical and important thing that's underpinned my success to date. And that was my initial approach by the university. At the time, it was the Muluko in the 90s. And I was actually looking for a university that would actually be able to enable me to write a master's thesis on my experience in our land claim that would allow me to actually put forward my Indigenous voice. In other words, my experience firsthand giving evidence, and which I was so cautious about because of the role my father played in the Kenby land claim. Now, I visited a lot of universities around Australia and also went overseas, and the response I got from the University of Newcastle, particularly from Muluko, was that yes, you can actually speak about this in your own way, providing of course it meets the academy's requirements and so forth. And at that time I was absolutely terrified that this story needed to be told. My father told me it had to be written. So this is where I undertook a master's in law and Aboriginal land claims. The important part of that beginning of that relationship was that it was a safe environment, it was nurturing, and very often it was fly in, fly out because I was, still working on the ground in the community. Mm-hmm. So I'd arrive with a backpack, and we were at that time in a demountable on Ring Road, right at the furthest corner, and it was just perfect for me because I felt at home. I mean, I was born in the bush, and just this wonderful welcome, and not only from our own Muluko, but from the law school as well, particularly Kate Lindsay, who just embraced everything that I was trying to get across. So So importantly, it is a safe environment, it is nurturing and allows Aboriginal voice to be heard.
Donna, were you encouraged by the support you got from the University of Newcastle? Were you encouraged by that during your time?
Absolutely, and bear in mind at the time I was the chairperson of Aboriginal education in one state, and I was involved as an advisor to the Heritage Commission in Canberra. But I was also working from the grassroots and consulting all over Australia. So I had an opportunity, in that a lot of it was volunteer work, to actually seek out and talk to many universities. So I will always have a strong and very close relationship with the University of Newcastle for that very reason.
Donna, in receiving that award, the Indigenous Alumni Award last year, what has that meant to you and what has that meant for you in your career?
Well, I always get emotional about it, but it kind of caps off a lifetime. I mean, I turned 16 recently, and it caps off a lifetime of struggle, of identity, and also not looking for sympathy or handouts, but to show that we as Indigenous Australians can stand, be right alongside, the leaders and the decision makers, which was what I always aspired to do, even though I was terribly, terribly shy. But here we are today. So it's meant everything, and since being awarded that wonderful award and so much gratefulness to the university for doing so. It's had an amazing effect on my family, my community, our society, because one of us is Donna Odegaard this year. Wonderful people, candidates in Joel and Lauren and everyone in past years. It was mind blowing. But what it does for us as individuals, the work we're doing, communities we work with, and our nation as a whole, I think it's cannot be underestimated. It's very, very important. And the important thing is that I came from being born in the bush, living in a tent, to this position today, where it's hard to stay in the background, but at the same time, if you fight for something, at some point you have to step up to the plate and just take ownership of what you do.
The recipient of last year's Indigenous Alumni Award, Dr. Donna Odegaard, and I tell you what, the association with the University of Newcastle and receiving that award just seems so endearing to Donna, doesn't it, when we hear that, Rose? It was
a very special and emotional moment. I remember that she referenced to her uncle and her belief that he would say, who would have thought a girl from the bush could have done this? And her achievements as an individual are just outstanding and make us all proud.
Congratulations there to Donna, and a well-deserved recipient. And we'll look forward to talking to you again soon, Rose, with another category as we look down to the categories. So many categories and just so many great stories that come from it, Rose. Stories like that of Dr. Donna Odegaard.
Yes. Bye, Donna.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Donna. Much appreciated. And we will continue to do that as the countdown is on until the 2013 Alumni Awards from the University of Newcastle. Thank you to Rose for coming in this morning.
You're welcome, Dave.